Hi there. Today we're going to talk about the elements of art. So, there are 7 elements of art, and the elements of art are basically just the rules and kind of like the language we use to talk about art. So there's 7 things that apply to everybody making art, and they help make your work better, and they help explain kind of what's going on in your work. So you've all received one of these. You took these home last Friday. So you can pull this out of your folder and grab it. We're going to go through this together. I'll read it out loud to you, and we'll go through each page so you know what to do. And we'll just kind of talk about what these elements are, because we are going to use these throughout the whole year. So these are really important to know about. So also, this is black and white, which means you can color it and make it pretty with colored pencils or crayons or markers, whatever you have at home. So you can do that when you're done filling out all the pages. So let's get started. The elements of art. So if you open up your first page, this is like a little book, so open it up. The very first element we're going to talk about is line. So line is just a straight line, right? We all have seen lines. We've probably all drawn lines before. But if we think about it in art terms, a line is a moving dot. So if you think about a dot, if you draw a dot, basically you just don't pick up your pencil and you keep moving and you create a line. So on this first page, it'll talk about line. It says, a line is a moving dot. A moving pencil or paintbrush makes a mark called a line. A line can be fat, thin, straight, or wavy. Fill each circle with a different type of line. So you're going to draw as many different types of line as you can. So it gives you some examples of types of lines, but I want you to think of some others and fill in all these circles. The second element we will talk about is shape. So that's down here on that second page. Now, something interesting about these elements is that they all kind of build on top of each other. So imagine if you're playing Legos and you put your first Lego down, then you can put another Lego on top of it and a third one. So you keep building up and up and up. So once we have a line, then we can make a shape. So I'll read this to you. A shape is a closed line. Shapes can be geometric and have their own special names, like triangles and circles. Other shapes are organic shapes that don't have special names, and they're more blob-like. Yeah, blob-like. I know, pretty funny. But it's true. So there's all kinds of different shapes. So what you're going to do on this page is the first box, you're going to draw a shape with no corners. Okay, so no sharp corners. So what could that be? What could that be? So you're going to draw something right there. Draw a shape with 3 corners. So you're going to have to think, what shape has 3 corners? You can draw it right here. And the third box, draw a shape with 4 corners. So you need to put your art thinking caps on and get creative and make some shapes right here in these open spaces. Now turn your page. The next element we're going to talk about is form. And again, they're building on top of each other. So you have a line, and then you can make a shape. And once you have a shape, you can make a form. Now forms are 3-dimensional objects. What does that mean? What is 3-dimensional? Maybe they'll tell us. Let's see. While shapes are flat, forms are fat. A square is a shape, while a cube is a form. Can you imagine what form a circle and a triangle could become? So right here they've shown us a square. That's a shape. And if they make it 3-dimensional, meaning it has 3 different planes, so we can see the front and we can see all the sides. We could walk around this. We could walk around this cube right here. If we were on this piece of paper, we could walk around it. So that's what it means to be 3-dimensional. Shapes are flat and forms are 3-dimensional. Okay? Then our next element is the element of value. Now again, value is the next step. So if we have a form, we can add value. Value is how light or dark a color is. So right here, what you're going to do is create a value scale from light to dark using shading from a pencil or a crayon. So value, I like to think about it as, I don't know if you guys have seen like ombre, where it goes from light to dark. That's value. So all you're going to do here is draw really lightly and then draw darker and darker and darker as you get to this other side. So this is going to be your darkest, and that's going to be your lightest. Now, they don't tell you what color to use, so do you think value can be any color? Yes, it can. You can have value with any color. It doesn't just mean black or white. So, like, let's say you use green, for example. You're going to draw really, really light with your green colored pencil or your green crayon. And then as you keep going down this box, this rectangular box, you're going to scratch darker and darker and darker until you go as dark as you possibly can with your green. Okay, so it just goes from light to dark. And value helps us understand how close and how far away things are in our picture. So, like, imagine if the sun is hitting, I don't know, something outside. Wherever the sun is hitting that object, it's going to be really light. And wherever that object is in the shade or the sun is not touching that object, it's going to be really dark. So it helps us create shadows, and it creates more space in our artwork. All right, flip your page. Now you can pause this at any time and work on this as I'm talking, or you can watch this and go back later. It's up to you. So we'll move on. The next element is the element of texture. Texture is the way something feels when you touch it. Smooth, bumpy, and rough are examples of different types of textures. Use the side of a crayon to rub a few different textures around you. So texture is something that we can feel usually, but when we're talking about it in art, we can't necessarily always feel it. So sometimes we need to draw it to show what something looks like. So you're going to use these 3 boxes to show different types of texture. Now, I have some things around me. Let's see. Like this sign here, this is felt, so the texture of this is soft. The texture of my coffee mug is smooth, right? Maybe a little bit bumpy because it has these ridges. So you're going to go through and show different types of textures. The next thing we're going to talk about is color. Now, color is like my favorite thing in the world to talk about. I could talk about it all day long, so we are definitely going to talk a lot more this year about color, but we'll just kind of touch on it today, just so we can start to understand it a little bit more. So, look at your page about color, the element of color. Now, many of you have probably heard of some of this stuff before. So if you have, that's awesome. If not, that's okay too, and we're going to learn about it now. So the 3 primary colors are red, blue, and yellow. See what happens when you fill each circle with one primary color and the colors begin to overlap. So you see here there's 3 circles, and they do overlap, meaning they kind of go into each other's space a little bit. They touch each other. So what you are asked to do here is draw color in these 3 circles with the primary colors, and they've told you what those are right here, red, blue, and yellow. Now you're going to color this whole circle. So if you color this circle red and you color this one blue, what do you think this little section will be if you combine red and blue? Now for this page, I suggest you use colored pencil, otherwise you're not going to see what color that will make. So try using colored pencil to overlap your colors, okay? Next page, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into color. So we're going to meet a friend of mine called Roy G. Biv. He's one of my best friends. Roy G. I can't even say it. Roy G. Biv, it's kind of a tongue twister, is basically just all the colors in the rainbow. So if you can remember Roy G. Biv, then you can remember the order of a rainbow. It's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So you can just know that from looking at this page, and you can color in your rainbow. Then we're going to look at complementary colors. You may have heard me say that word before, especially if you're in second grade. We talked about it a little bit last year in first grade. So complementary colors are opposite each other on the color wheel. So this here is a color wheel. Sometimes they look different. It just kind of depends who made it, but they really all have the same purpose, and it's just to show us different colors. And it's to also help us understand what colors work really well together. Now, complementary, usually the word complementary makes me think of a compliment. Like if I tell someone, hey, I like your dress, that's a nice compliment. But in this case, it means complement, it means like they pair well together. So peanut butter and jelly complement each other really nicely. They pair well together. So the same thing goes for colors. Now, it's not to say that other colors don't match or don't look good. It's just that when complementary colors get together, they like power up your art. They really help it look great. So those colors, you can find them right here. If you're looking at red on your color wheel, and you can color in your color wheel, R stands for red. So this little triangle slice would be red. Now, opposite, you'd have to find what's across from it on the color wheel. So if it helps, you can draw a line, kind of like you're drawing a clock, like the arms of a clock. So if you look here, red is across from, that's a G. So what do you think that stands for? Green. So red and green are complementary colors. All right, so I gave you the first one. So you're going to figure out the other ones on your own, and you can color in this beautiful little color wheel here to help you remember. Now we're going to learn about warm and cool colors. This here is a half a circle, and this is another half a circle. So if we were to put these two together, they would make a full circle, and they would make our full color wheel. So warm colors are red, yellow, and orange. They make you think of warm things such as sunlight and fire. So they make you feel warm. They remind you of those kinds of things. Now it says here, warm colors appear to advance or come forward in a picture. So they've already told us what advance means, but warm colors really help things pop and come closer. So remember what I said about the sun? If something has more light or it's warm, meaning it's a warm color, then it's going to appear to come closer to you in your art. So if you want something to look closer to the person, then you can make it warm. If you want something to look farther back, like it's in the shade, it's in the distance, maybe a cool color would help with that. So cool colors appear to recede in a picture. Recede just means go back. So they go back. They go farther behind us. They're in the distance. Cool colors are blue, green, and purple. They make us think of water, sky, ice, and snow, things like that that are cool. Maybe the ocean, clouds. Now we're going to talk about neutral colors. Neutral colors are not on the color wheel, but they are colors that we do use a lot. So they're black, gray, brown, and white. Now, what do you think happens if you mix black into a color like red? Do you think it gets lighter or darker? Darker. What about white? If you mix white into a color, it's going to help it get lighter. So those are two colors that are super helpful when you're trying to mix paint or you're just, trying to help create some dark and some light color in your piece of art. And then the next thing we'll talk about, we'll move on from color for a little bit, is space, the element of space. Now, when I hear the word space, I sort of think about outer space, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about like space around us. So right here where I'm sitting, I have space around me. There's space to move my arms. That's what we're talking about here. So space refers to the area within and around an object. So within an object, that would mean like if I show you this mug, there's space within it, inside it. So it's not just around it, it's inside the mug too. So here, you're going to create your own example of positive and negative space. Positive and negative space. Now let's talk about that, because those are some big words too. So let's look at this picture right here. This is a vase. Maybe it's sitting on a table or a countertop or something like that. Now they've showed us, they've labeled, they drew an arrow to the vase and they said positive space. So the vase is positive space. Now the area all around the vase, that's the negative space. So if you're sitting here, you, the object, the thing, whatever it is you're drawing, maybe you're drawing this mug, that's going to be your positive space. And then everything else around it is negative space. So those are just some fancy words to understand kind of what happens around our objects when we look at them. So you're going to draw an example right there. You flip your page, and we're going to talk a little bit more about lines, because lines are really, really important. And without line, we really can't build on any of the other elements. So line really comes first. Now I love this. It's one of my favorite things. A line is a dot that went for a walk. So that kind of helps me remember what a line is, right? I can draw a dot really easily. But if I keep my pencil down and I keep dragging it, it goes for a walk and it becomes a line. So that's pretty helpful. So they've drawn this little man here with a leash or, something, and you get to finish this. So you get to create a line and see what happens. Now lines can also have different directions. So they go all over the place, right? They don't just stay in one spot. They can be anywhere. So vertical lines mean they go up and down, like a fence. That's how I think of it. Horizontal lines are flat, like this, from right to left. Now, horizontal, these are some big words too. Horizontal, I remember that because the horizon is flat. The horizon is where the earth and the sky meet, and that's where the sun sets on the horizon. So when I think of the word horizontal, it helps me to remember that my horizontal lines are like the horizon. They're flat like this. And then we have diagonal lines, and diagonal lines go at a slant. All right, so you're going to draw those types of lines. Now you have a bunch of boxes where you can show more types of lines. So practice your line drawing. Thick, thin, wavy, jagged. There's many types of lines, so you're going to fill in all these boxes. Now, lines can also have feelings. I know, pretty weird, but it's true. They can. When you see a line on a paper, there's something about it that makes you feel a certain way, right? So if it's flat and boring, it's just kind of flat and boring. But if your line goes all over the place, then it might say something. It might have something to say. So you are going to use this space to create lines that express your feelings. So you have to think about how you feel and what kind of line would communicate that, would tell that to the world. Now another great thing about lines is they can create a pattern. Oh my gosh, I have the perfect example. I am wearing a striped dress. There are horizontal lines. Now if there was just one line, it would just be a line. But since there's many, many lines on my dress, this is a striped pattern. It made a pattern. So what you are going to do here is repeat simple lines to create new patterns in each square. So when you draw lines all in a row like that, they become stripes. When you draw circles, they become polka dots. So you're going to create different patterns here. And our final page, a line closes to create a shape. So you're going to use this space here to draw some examples of closed lines. So let's look right here. This square is a closed line. It's a line that started here and went around, and then it ended there. So it has made itself into a shape. So you're going to use that last page to show me some different ways that you can make shapes with line. Okay, so that is a lot of information, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking more about it this year. But what I want you to do is spend some time in this book and practice using the elements of art in this book, and then you can color this book and make it pretty, and then keep it near you when we're making art so that you can come back to it if you forget something or you want to remember a big word. Everything's in here, all right? So I love talking about the elements of art, and I hope you guys enjoy it. We will talk more about it soon, but for now, work on your book, and I will see you next week. Have an awesome week, you guys. Bye.